Okay, to simulate the creation of a worm, as a hacker does, we can use an application or a toolkit called Internet Worm Maker Thing. Very descriptive. This tool actually generates a real worm, not a fake worm, but it will be detected by any antivirus or security application because it generates worms with known signatures. But let's check around. Let's see what's going on out there and see what options we have when it comes to creating a worm. First, you're going to specify the worm name, the author, or some alias name, the version number, and so on. Now, here is the output where this application will generate the file and we can compile it to an exe. So if we open the folder of this Internet Worm Maker Thing application, as you can see here, we have a compiler that we can use standalone, and also we can use it from within the Worm Maker interface. Now, I want to point this out very quickly. The most important feature in a worm is the spreading option. So here, we can have a place where we can open a bunch of tools that we can use to spread the worm. Now, you notice the first thing we have is spread by email. We also have some shareware applications here like Kazaa and LimeWire. They're pretty old applications. Some of you remember them, but they work for our purposes. Now, we also have IRC channels, and we have some more sharing applications here, so you can use different means to spread your application and WSScript to other drives. At this point, we can choose how we want the worm to spread. So now we will customize what this worm will do. So let's set it to English language for the setup and the startup. We can include or modify the registry to start this worm, the global registry startup as well. And it can be activated based on a specific date, or it can be randomly activated, your choice. Now, if you choose to activate it randomly, we have to specify the chances of it infecting new systems. Now, usually if I put 1 in 1, it means the infection will be enormous. So the damage on the system will be noticeable by the antivirus and even possibly by the user. So I would want to reduce this number to make it, let's say, 1 in 20. So the spreading will be a little bit slower, but the worm will still go unnoticed for a little more time. All right, so we've got that set up here. More options here. You see hide the drives, disable task manager, and so on. We see these features in many malware, not only worms actually. And we can choose an icon for it. We can also disable registry editor and explorer. exe. This will definitely be a lot of harm and do a lot of harm for the computer. So you don't want to disable Explorer, but you have the capability to do so. Homepage for internet browsers. Okay, so now for the security, you can disable Windows Security and Norton Security. Now, definitely new worms can disable different antiviruses or sealed applications, like, for example, Avast or AVG and so on. So here we have disable macro security. And this is important. So if your documents are set to disable macro by default, this will enable macro again. So that's good. All right, we got run command, shut down, log off, so on. We have many other options, as you can see. So the smart way to create a worm or any other piece of malware is to make it unnoticed as much as possible. If I disable run, shut down, log off, and all the interfaces for the user, then the user obviously is going to definitely suspect that something's going on and that something's wrong. So I would like to make it as less damaging and as much as possible, but at the same time, keep it as effective as possible. Now, we can do some fun stuff here. We can open C drives or something very interesting, download file. It's always a fun thing to do. So I get the file from the specified URL here. It could be an FTP site for the hacker, and then save it as an X file on the victim's computer. This is a very important thing if you want to ship Trojans or viruses to the victim's PC directly. It's very helpful here. You can see right here we have the option of printing a message on the screen for the user when the payload is activated and the worm infects the system. It's always a kind of a sly, fun thing to do. We can disable System Restore because a lot of users use System Restore whenever they find something suspicious on their computer. So we can kind of lull them into that. So we can disable this feature for the user so they can't go back in System Restore, but they have to get an expert to clean their computer. So that's another option there. Or actually at some point, as an addition, they may need to reformat the whole operating system as a whole. So we're kind of forcing them down the direction we want them to go. Here we can do a number of things. We can delete some files. To delete a specific file, we would have to specify the path right here. We can delete a folder. We can change the date even. If you have specified the activation of the payload on the specific date, we can use this feature to make the infection faster. So we can set this maybe 1 day prior to the activation of the payload, and then the next day we are sure that the payload will be activated. All sorts of options. Here's some more here. We can change the drive icon if you want. Here's an important one: corrupt antivirus. Disable Windows Fire Protection and malware remove. Those are important features for obvious reasons for the worm. We can exploit Windows admin lockout bug. It might lock the Windows admin account so that the administrator cannot even log in to fix the issue. Of course, blue screen of death, our favorite. We can infect BAT, VBE, and VBS files as well. So there's a lot of different options. Okay, so now extra features or plugins. Now here you can actually add plugins. We can load plugins. There are a couple of them available, and one of them that comes with this application. You can also write plugins and add them if you'd like by selecting the custom code here, and at the end selecting generate worm, and you will have the worm ready to be sent to your first victim. Now, you're going to try this application. Make sure you don't really send it to anyone. That would be problematic. You don't want to get in trouble, of course. So whenever you are trying to create a worm and test it, best thing to do, make sure that you are trying it in a specialized and very secure environment. Now, as you can see here, before I start anything, I'm going to disable my network interface and disable all kinds of sharing of the virtual machine with the hardware environment. So this doesn't happen within my experiment here and in the physical environment. So in case something went wrong, the worm obviously then wouldn't spread out onto my network. It would stay contained within my own little world here. Now, make sure that you secure your environment first when you're trying this kind of application. Definitely do not try it in your work environment. Take it off-site somewhere, but maybe in a special lab. It's always a good idea. That kind of environment really works well for this kind of exercise.